Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of a Skywatch. This model doesn't really have a model. It's just called the Skywatch Carbon Fiber in Yellow. Skywatch exists for people that love the Blancpain 50 fathoms but can't afford one. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. And Skywatch would probably be pissy at me for saying that, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's a lot of brands out there that have made themselves by creating good or acceptable lower priced alternatives to watches that are difficult to afford. I mean, the 50 fathoms is a watch I love, and it costs like, well above $10,000, and this one's a few $100. So if you really like the Blancpain 50 fathoms, especially the newest iteration, and you can't afford it, well, Skywatch to the rescue. Okay, so this is a version which is in line with some of the, I guess you could say, racing themed versions of the 50 fathoms. So the 50 fathoms, of course, is a dive watch, but they had some racing versions. If you remember, there's a yellow ones and there's a chronograph. I don't think there was a yellow three-hand version of the 50 fathoms, but they definitely had the chronograph version that had like this kind of modern, sporty-looking font, and again, it was in black and yellow. It may have had some carbon fiber on there. Can't say for sure. It was a less common model for sure. Not my favorite, but still a good watch. So this is so I was curious about this version. So the 50 fathoms is a fantastic watch. This is not a 50 fathoms, but they've done certain things to try to emulate that look. And one of those things is on the 50 fathoms, you have a domed sapphire bezel. So it's a really, really cool bezel. And again, domed sapphire for bezel is quite expensive. So sapphire bezels are expensive. Domed ones are even more expensive. And so what this has done is, I believe it has an acrylic bezel, which is also domed. And it's fine. I mean, is it going to be as scratch resistance as sapphire? No, but it looks pretty good there. And it rotates there. So it's definitely a dive watch. It's nice. I don't recall if it has lume in the bezel. It may or may not. And again, if you don't like this sort of look with that carbon fiber in there and that yellow, there's definitely much more sober versions of this watch available. And the dial, again, is not exactly 50 fathoms. It's similar, but Skywatch did definitely take their own take on there, and it's attractive. In the pictures and things like that, when you go to the Skywatch website, they look like $1 million, and when you get it, it's not an expensive timepiece. So you have to sort of manage your expectations, which is an important thing to do, especially for me, because I'm used to dealing with very, very expensive watches, and there are times where I have to say, okay, most people can't afford those. We need to talk about things that most people can't afford, which is why I go ahead and review pieces like that. And Skywatch has been successful. They have had a lot of people interested. So unlike the 45 millimeter version, 45 millimeter wide 50 fathoms, this is 44 millimeters wide, but it feels smaller. I don't know why. I think it has to do with the thickness of the bezel, but it definitely wears like a smaller watch to me, even though it is 40. I actually had to measure it. I was like, I didn't believe it, because I did a review in the same session of the Rolex Submariner, and they seem to fit kind of the same. Which is interesting, actually, even though this is technically 4 millimeters wider. But on the wrist, it's fine. It's by no means a small watch, but I think it's sort of thinner, and it actually has a more petite presence, which I think is good. One thing I'm not super happy about is it doesn't have a sapphire crystal, and there's a domed mineral crystal there. There doesn't appear to be any AR, and it's not the best crystal in the world, so you get distortion and you get kind of glare. So glare isn't that big of a deal, but there's a bit of a distortion that happens at angles. Doesn't horrendously affect legibility, but if you're someone like me that likes a perfectly clear view right down to the dial, it's going to affect that a little bit. So that's something to know. The case is steel. This one is black IP coated, which is ion plating, and so there's steel versions which I think are brushed, and again there's also this black version. I just thought the kind of black was cool. In fact, if you do just get the steel version, the watch will probably look bigger. They do say that black is slimming, right? Inside the watch is a Swiss movement. There's a Swiss quartz Ronda movement. I'm not sure the exact caliber. I'm sure you don't really care, but it is on their website if you're notoriously interested in that. It's a dive style watch, so it is water resistant to 100 meters. It does not have a screw down crown. So could you go swimming with this thing? Sure, but I wouldn't recommend too intense water sports with it, simply because it doesn't have those more sort of intense water resistance features. The strap is cool. On the 50 Fathoms, has kind of like a canvas textile one. Skywatch did a pretty good job of replicating that. It's not the greatest strap in the world, but it's comfortable and it's soft and it actually wears comfortably. One thing I don't like is these blue loops here. I've seen a few brands do this today. I don't get it. They put this sky blue strap holder thing. I think they're trying to be cool and maybe kind of edgy and designy. I don't like it. I just don't. It looks like the wrong part. It looks like someone had this watch and said, "Okay, let's put this thing together." And all of a sudden, I'm gonna put this watch on just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. They're like, "Oh, let's just decide to change the color of something that is incredibly contrasting." So it's like, I guess the idea is to be a little bit different. They see the bottom, like, "Oh, what's that blue?" But it doesn't go with it. Maybe if there was blue stitching on the strap or something like that, I could kind of see it, or there's blue on the dial, but there's no blue here. In fact, the red and the blue contrast so much. So yellow, red, blue, it just doesn't go together for me at all. So there are different color versions of this watch that the blue perhaps would go better with, but for me, I just don't get it. So that's their thing. That's fine. If you like the blue, if you think it's cool, if there's a good story or reason for it, you can tell me because I'm curious. And yes, of course, I didn't ask Skywatch. I could have easily just asked them and been like, "What's with the blue?" But I decided not to do that. You don't know that when you look at the watch on the website. It doesn't say anywhere, "Oh, by the way, there's this blue stuff in the strap." Maybe there's a picture somewhere. Anyways, going off on a long tangent there. Anyways, again, so this is the Skywatch carbon fiber in yellow. There's a lot of different versions, and they all sort of share the same basic look. There's some chronograph versions available as well. And again, so all the things I've said, you have to again take the price into consideration. So the retail price on this is $295. Not a lot of money. I think the collection starts even less than that. And so if you're sort of hankering for that Blancpain 50 Fathoms style, and it's not the type of thing you can afford, check one of these out. It's a fun watch, and even though there are some complaints about it, I think for the money, you're getting a decent thing. You can see the full review on aBlogtoWatch soon. Thanks.